What's up, J-Brones? Live from Brooklyn, New York and Moncton, New Brunswick, Canada, this is the Torture Rack Podcast. I am your host, Marc Bass. My co-host is John F. Malta, and we are very happy to be here with you, our friends in wrestling. John, say something to let the people know you're alive, pal.
What's going on, dude? I'm real psyched. I just got done working on a drawing of Mil Muertes and Rey Fenix Jr. for Torture Racked Issue 4.
That is a sick drawing. John, do you want to let us know a little bit about how Torture Racked Issue 4 is coming along?
It's steps away from being done. I think it's going to be done this week. We are in the first week of June now. I feel like I only have like a handful of illustrations left to do. I'm almost done with Thomas's Lucha Underground piece. I have 2 illustrations to do for that. I did my own year of 2019 like review sort of thing. So I actually need to figure out what I'm going to draw for that and why. I definitely think I'm going to draw Omega and Moxley and the barbed wire spider web.
Yes. I feel like we don't talk about that as much as we should and how awesome that match was.
Totally. And yeah, just barreling towards the publication date. This issue is going to be 164 pages, the biggest issue ever, completely changing the format from the fanzine that the subscribers of Torture Rack know. And I couldn't be more excited. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. I cannot wait to see all these illustrations in the same place, all of these articles that you and Thomas have wrote about Japan, and myself to see the 20 matches that define the Intercontinental Championship article that I wrote with all your illustrations live and in color. It's going to be so cool. So John, because we talked about it a little bit last episode, but we didn't actually finish that discussion. Can you take people through how this issue compares to the first 3? Like, how big was the first issue of Torture Rack?
The first issue, I think, was maybe 32 pages at the most. 28 to 32 pages, short essays. The longest essay was on Joey Janela. It kind of went through his career up to that point. And then also featured Naito, Pete Dunne, and maybe Jay Lethal. I think that's it, but it was short. They were all short essays, very quick, just sort of the things that I loved about wrestling at that moment. And it just started like because I was really excited about wrestling. I wanted to draw things about it, and the drawings that I did at that time, they started as illustrations, and I was like, oh, I should pair this with writing and actually make a zine. So then the first 3 issues are all around that size. They're 5.5 by 8.5 issues, sort of the typical fanzine size that people know. And then when working on the 4th issue, I started working on it at the beginning of this year, at the end of last year, sort of like December, January, thinking that it would be done in maybe like February or March. But then I started putting together the feature on my trip to Tokyo and Wrestle Kingdom this past January,
right? And
realized that that the issue could be much longer than it typically is. So from there, it kind of grew into what it is now, which is basically a 164-page book that covers a lot of different wrestling. Like you covered WWE and did a really great article on the Intercontinental title. Thomas did a tribute piece to Hana Kimura and Lucha Underground overview, sort of introduction for people who are not familiar with Lucha. And I did a myriad of articles, among them being a 100-page feature on my trip to Tokyo. And that's how this turned into a 164-page book and project that will hopefully be printed and wrapped by the middle to end of this month. I think by the next time we record an episode, the issue should be closed. So
wow,
June,
that's so exciting.
June 8th, next Monday. I'm putting it out there. Was planning to be done by June 1st, but I got wrapped up in that Phoenix Muertes illustration for Thomas, so
worth it.
A little longer than I thought it would.
I could feel this issue growing and growing because I don't even remember when I started writing that Intercontinental title article. I felt like it was last year.
It was a while ago. Yeah,
I felt like it was in December, and I remember being psyched about it. And I've sent you a lot of messages that say, "Hey, John, what does the text have to be locked for?" Because I found myself making edits all the time as like
different things happen in WWE. I'm like, oh, Brock Lesnar's the champion.
Right, because as
not anymore.
As you wrote it, you wrote it like, and I think in the intro you talk about how Sammy still hadn't got a title.
I actually am starting to think that there's something like some sort of magical, like Harry Potter quality to that thing, because everything I wrote started happening. I was like, I really hope Drew wins the Royal Rumble. I'm like, well, they should ascend him. He's like the top guy. I said, Sami Zayn, it's ridiculous. I know that they're not going to put a Muslim Syrian ginger guy from Canada as their top guy, but he should be the most decorated Intercontinental Champion ever. And then suddenly he wins the Intercontinental Championship.
Well, then they stripped it away from him. But he still won it, though.
We are going to talk about that later. Actually, I know we usually talk about Dynamite, but that's actually a really good lead into the NXT episode if you're comfortable.
Sure, yeah.
Jumping to that. Because I just wanted to talk about how it's a little bit hypocritical that WWE stripped the Intercontinental Championship from Sami Zayn because he couldn't compete. Number one, because as a lot of people pointed out, Brock Lesnar held the Universal Championship without defending regularly for like 3 months because he demanded so much for a paycheck that it would only be the huge pay-per-views or Survivor Series or Royal Rumbles that you'd actually see Brock as champion. But also, number two, here in NXT, they don't have their champion who is, please remind me his name.
Adam Cole?
No, the Cruiserweight champion. We watched a match with him. Star versus...
Dude, I don't know. I'm not on that one.
This is embarrassing. But the Cruiserweight champion is stuck in, I want to say, the UK at the moment. And so rather than stripping the title from him in NXT, they have devised a interim Cruiserweight Championship tournament. So it's this entire tournament that's been taking up a lot of NXT television that is just to decide who is the champion until the actual champion can come back and sort of defend for it. So I really feel like if they wanted to keep Sami Zayn as Intercontinental Champion, they easily could have done that. Just had an Intercontinental Championship interim tournament. Everybody knows there's the global situation that's going on. They could have kept the title on him, and then once he came back to challenge whoever the winner of the Intercontinental Tournament is, that could have been a great match. And the Intercontinental Finals are happening probably next SmackDown between Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles.
Dude, that match is going to be sick.
Apparently, it's already been taped, and it's great. I've read this on Squared Circle. So on NXT, the first match was the semi-finals of the Cruiserweight Interim Championship Tournament. That is a mouthful. Between Drake Maverick, Kushida, and Jake Atlas. Now, Drake Maverick's been riding this story ever since he was released. He put out a very heartfelt video talking about how...
that video was really, like, heartbreaking.
It was super heartbreaking.
Very hard to watch.
And I don't think it was a work. Basically, he was released by WWE on the Black Wednesday, and he went on a heartfelt, almost like an apology video to his fans. It was almost like, I've let you down, but I'm no longer going to be wrestling for the WWE. And he talks about how his future's uncertain, and he basically cries on camera, and it's very vulnerable. And I'm not sure if WWE saw that and they thought, oh, we feel guilty, or if they thought, that's money, we can use that. But whatever it is,
probably a little bit of both, right?
Probably a little bit of both.
That match was so good. It's been a while since I've watched NXT weekly. I've been watching every takeover, forever. But yeah, that match, it just starts out so fast and fast paced, and I really loved it.
We're making an effort to watch more NXT just because, there seems to be great stuff going on. And as soon as I put on this episode, I knew I was back in, because this opening match was absolutely killer. It's triple threat, like you said, never lets up. Has a little bit of a screwy finish where Drake Maverick gets the pin on Kushida, even though, or on Jake Atlas, even though Kushida has him in a submission hold, and he taps out basically at the same time. But
dude, Kushida tore the house down in this episode, in that specific match. Like, there was that string of moves where he did like a moonsault to tornado DDT to like rolled over into an armbar. Like, I don't know. Yeah, that match, I even just while watching that, it's like, why haven't I been watching this weekly? It's great.
Yeah.
I also think the cruiserweights have just been so underserved by WWE. They had their own program, 205 Live, but they never gave that show a lot of promotion. They never gave it a lot of storylines or any time on the pay-per-views. It was those pre-show matches that no one really could get invested in it, even though it had some of the best wrestlers in WWE, including, Neville and Drew Gulak and people like that.
Totally.
But now that the cruiserweight has moved over to NXT, which has 2 hours to fill, it seems like a match made in heaven because they're really giving it these matches the time to flower. Drake Maverick obviously coming back to perhaps win the tournament and get his job back in WWE is like...
It would be an incredible story. I hope that's what happens. Yeah.
I hope that's what happens too. I mean, it seems like a pretty obvious... yeah. Anyway, John gave this match an A. I gave it an A-. Thought it was fantastic. Now, John has been watching the Hulu cut?
I have, yeah, the Hulu cut. 60 minutes.
The 60-minute cut. So I'm watching a 90-minute version. John's watching a 60-minute version. Honestly, I'm a little bit envious of him because it seems like some of the less good segments got cut, including this Johnny Gargano, Adrian Alanis squash match. Yeah, I don't like his all heart, no soul written on his gear. He seems kind of like an angsty, like emo teen. And they had the crowd of the NXT wrestlers around the ring, and they were all sort of, obviously told to boo Johnny, but it was really half-hearted. And it was funny, the commentary, I think it was Morrow or maybe someone else, but referred to the wrestlers around the ring, the obviously just NXT wrestlers, as the WWE universe. And I just thought,
oh, that's funny.
It's so funny how they can't say fans or even wrestlers. They have to say WWE Universe when it's just like 12 guys around the ring. Anyway, I thought the match was kind of a bust. There was a Keith Lee Gargano segment that was not for me. Very sitcom, very cringe. After that, Drake Maverick has an interview where he acknowledges that he won that match under shady circumstances and basically is cool. I want to make this right. What do I have to do? Do I have to fight somebody? Kushida comes out. Did you not see this?
I did. It cuts that's where my episode picks back up.
Okay.
Right after the match goes to this promo.
Yeah. So, Kushida, rather than what you think, which is, he's going to contest it, he actually offers his support to Drake Maverick, and Maverick is like so emotional and happy, and he offers Kushida the first shot after he wins the title. So I think this is a brilliant setup. You have, if Drake Maverick goes on to win, amazing underdog story, gets fired, manages to come back for the Cruiserweight tournament that he was supposed to be in anyway, wins it. He has his first proper defense against the person that he kind of shadily won against. And then, once the Cruiserweight champion comes back, that's another feud. So that's like 3 months of great storylines for Drake.
Dude, totally.
And I just love how it paid off in like a show of respect and sportsmanship, rather than just the petty squabbling we always see backstage.
Yeah, it felt right. It felt good. I love that NXT basically is treating like cruiserweights like a super junior division, basically, where it's like guys doing fast moves within their show rather than being on a separate show that I tried watching a lot but could never get into. Like, I tried watching lots of episodes of 205 Live and just could never find myself engaged in what was going on in it. But I do love this tournament, and I'm excited to see the finals. All right, is the final going to be In Your House this weekend?
Is that this weekend?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, I think it's
I'm
Monday,
so excited.
Monday.
That card is
Sunday.
really shaping up. I believe the finals probably will be, although they could be on NXT this week. I guess we'll find out in a couple days.
True, yeah.
There was a Shotzi Blackheart versus Raquel Gonzalez match you did not see.
Missed that. I love Shotzi. Wish that I saw that.
Shotzi came out in a tiny tank.
I seen GIFs of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. It was really funny. Raquel, who's like Dakota Kai's strong woman, she dominated for most of the match, but then Shotzi rallied. She hit a terrible coffin drop onto the outside of the ring. Dakota and Raquel were supposed to catch her. Didn't. She just landed on her shoulder. It looked
to the ground?
Yeah. It looked brutal.
Damn.
It looked brutal. I don't know if they rushed, but Kai interfered. They went right to the finish.
Hope she's okay.
I hope she's okay. She seemed all right, but that was a B- for me, like solid TV match. There was a little bit of hype. I don't know if you saw this, but for the upcoming Finn Balor Damian Priest match.
No, I did not see that either.
It's a match for who is the spookier boy. That's going to be having an NXT. I know you don't love Damian Priest, right?
I don't really have an opinion on him. I didn't like him pre NXT, so coming into NXT, I just don't feel that like excited about him. But I love Finn Balor, so
yeah, I think this could be a great establishing match for him. Just kind of putting it up against someone like Finn, who could take a loss. For sure. Then there was Charlotte Flair and Chelsea Green versus Rhea Ripley and Io Shirai. What a team, Rhea Ripley and Io Shirai.
Dude, and this feud between Rhea and Charlotte is awesome. It's been so cool seeing the two of them. I don't know, just how it's actually continued. It's like actually feels like a long-term sort of thing.
Yeah.
And just watching the two of them go at each other is so fun. Like, I would watch that match any day.
Absolutely. I was really negative from the last WrestleMania when Rhea had recently won on NXT television, defeating Shayna Baszler, who had like a year undefeated streak. So Rhea got that huge rub from defeating Shayna, won the title, but then pretty immediately dropped it to Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania. Charlotte Flair kind of controversially won the Women's Royal Rumble. Everyone kind of thinks of it as just kind of backstage politicking, where Charlotte just kind of has to have a little bit of everything. But at the same time, it really does solidly define her as like probably the greatest female wrestler of all time. At the moment, at least. So yeah, when Charlotte won it from Rhea, though, I just thought that's not really necessary. Like give Rhea that big win. But now it seems like they're, like you said, they're planning a much longer term storyline. So yeah, if you think about it, Rhea Ripley's what, 19 years old?
I think she's a little older than that.
21,
like 23. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm probably way off. But she's young. What I'm trying to say is she's at the start of her career. So she already like defeated Shayna. She's had a huge match with Charlotte at WrestleMania, which was great, where she held her own. She didn't win. But then she gets to chase Charlotte on NXT's television, gets Charlotte out of the main roster women's division for a little bit because she's too dominant. She'd probably beat Asuka right now and like take her title. Put her there, and then eventually when Rhea wins again from Charlotte, it's going to be just like
it'll be as big of a win,
the most massive moment.
Like rather than just retaining, like last week you made a point saying it's fun to watch the babyface chase the title rather than having like a long dominant reign.
Yeah.
And I do think that there's something to that, because seeing now that her title win last year was one of my favorite, like the only title win that I could think of in the last year that I was as excited for was Naito winning the Double Gold Dash at Wrestle Kingdom this year. And then secondarily, I feel like in WWE, the last time I was that excited to see someone win a title was when AJ Styles beat Jinder Mahal in England. Like, I think like 2 or 3 years ago at this point.
That was an amazing moment because it was such a lackluster Jinder title feud after going from jobber to Vince wants a deal in India. Jinder is the champion, has a bunch of terrible matches, and then, you know, the greatest SmackDown star of his generation, AJ, comes in and takes the title back.
But I think in retrospect, it's what made that, because AJ won on a SmackDown, so it didn't feel like he was going to win either. Like, no one expected him to win that.
Yeah, no, it was a total surprise and huge pop. Like, we popped huge. And AJ has, had the WWF title on SmackDown, you know, for 2 almost like year-long runs. So
totally.
He's, I don't know. We always talked about him as like the next Shawn Michaels, but he is pretty much just like, he's that
phenomenal
great.
one.
He is the phenomenal one. Did you, you must have seen the William Regal, Adam Cole Zoom meeting.
Man, that was such a good promo for like Adam Cole sitting in his gamer chair in his apartment. And there's a lot of intensity and just like, I don't know. Yeah, I was really like blown away by how engaged I was with that promo for being just this weird Zoom conference. Like,
well, it's just 2 great like characters. Like you know, Adam Cole, who is going on, he's had the longest title reign in NXT history. He's over a year now, and he's basically just saying that he is the leader of his generation. and he's got a lot of stats to back it up. And William Regal's like, "Listen, Adam, I don't suffer fools gladly." It's so funny.
Yeah, that intensity that Regal brought to it too. Yeah, just very they're both top of their game of promos.
So have you heard what the stipulation is for their match in your house?
No, I've not.
So it's some sort of parking lot match, not a parking lot brawl, because there is a ring, but the ring is going to be outside, surrounded by wrestlers' cars who presumably have like their headlights on or whatever. So I think it has the...
Dude, this era is awesome. Like, so great.
I agree.
What?
I agree.
I love, and now it's just like everyone's going to go back and forth trying to make the wildest, like,
cinematic match.
COVID cinematic match. Yeah, like,
absolutely.
Hopefully I guess it probably will become something that's a holdover. Like, they'll keep doing these matches probably moving forward.
Well, dude, Vince, like, doesn't like to say the word wrestling. He thinks he's a sports entertainer. He's like, wrestling's what my dad did. Like, he doesn't believe, and he thinks that what he's making is more like cinema. So actually having the opportunity to literally make cinematic matches.
I mean, I'd watch a whole promotion built around cinematic match, like basically Lucha Underground.
Yeah,
it'd be cool to see like a promotion now that's basically all, as much as I love wrestling, like this new cinematic sort of aesthetic and the different things it allows them to do. Like, yeah, so cool.
Did you see that Meltzer did not rate the Stadium Stampede match because he didn't consider it a match because it was filmed over like 12 hours, which makes sense.
Didn't he say also that like he didn't want to, I thought at the beginning of all of this too, he said he didn't want to rate anything because he
felt it wasn't fair.
Yeah, that it was like, this is a weird time. Is he rating stuff again now?
He is. And I think it makes sense to rate it. Like, it's just, if there can't be a 5-star match because the audience isn't there to like pump it up, then so be it. That's a reality of the situation. I don't think you should, not rate things. Like, sure, maybe it's unfair to matches, but the situation is unfair to matches and you just kind of roll with it.
Yeah. I mean, like thinking back to like as you said that in my head, I was like, oh, there are matches that have happened in this era that I would put on as like, oh, that's as good as any of the matches that I would consider like a 5-star match.
As far as I'm concerned,
like Meltzer's rating, but my own personal ratings, it's like, well, like Brody and Mox was an incredible match, and with or without a crowd. And then even like last week too, we were talking about how Sheeta is able to perform as if a crowd is there, even though a crowd is not there. Like in my
she
mind,
has that kind of, she doesn't seem affected. And I think one of the things is that the reason that WWE always puts everyone through NXT when they come, rather than just hotshotting them to the main roster. I think the only one I can remember who skipped NXT was AJ Styles, which was a huge moment at a Royal Rumble. But the NXT system and like the Performance Center, they teach you how to perform for the crowd and for the TV. And so they have a very special way of performing. They do everything to the hard cam and they do this and that. So when they don't have a crowd, they're a little bit stranded, I think, a lot of the performers. And I see that less in AEW. I find those guys are able to just confidently have matches without, I don't know, missing that roar of the crowd. I think AEW, like you said, like over the last couple of weeks, I've gone whole stretches of the episode just kind of forgetting that there's no crowds.
Yeah, you kind of just get lost in it. It's great.
Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch had a great promo.
Oh, I didn't see that. Man, I love them. Their tag match. They've had a lot of great tag matches in NXT. Like, just, the two of them together. Happy to hear they had a promo. I've not seen them in a tag match in a while, so.
What was so great about the promo is that it was about how they were fighting each other at first. And I think it was Oni was saying how getting hit by Danny is like getting hit by a brick. Like a punch from him. And so I love these tag teams that start out as like enemies. I think that's why the Bar with Sheamus and Cesaro worked so well, because we saw them have like a best of 7 series where they took each other to the limit and they hated each other at first. And then they grew to respect each other so much because of how much they tested each other, and like that was like the basis of their tag team.
Dude, totally.
I think that's really cool. Another match that they're building for In Your House, Karrion Kross, former Killer Kross versus Tommaso Ciampa. I am so excited for this.
This match is going to be it's going to rule. Killer Kross, I feel like his debut, him and Scarlett's debut was on NXT was very sick.
And that's just like their entrance. Like Scarlett just comes out and does like the pantomime singing, and she actually sang the song. Like that's her
voice.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I know some people it's divided. Some people they think it's like a little bit much, but I think it is.
I like it. Yeah,
the coolest entrance currently on probably any wrestling show.
Yeah, I would agree with that totally. Definitely like on the level of like Aleister Black's entrance, for sure. Like just
totally.
There's this person's coming out to fuck shit up, and yeah, their valet is not fucking around either.
I also enjoy like you said the Suzuki-gun energy of
Archer. Yeah, totally.
Archer just coming out with like a small jobber in his hands as he comes from the backstage,
brawling. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it makes it seem like he burst out of his locker room and just started beating people up.
Rather than headbutting like a locker and giving himself a concussion like Goldberg. He just like finds some dude in the hallway. He's like, "You're coming with me, little boy."
Yeah.
So
but that was a great setup for. I'm excited for that match.
Totally.
Ciampa versus Karrion Kross now, formerly Killer Kross. It's going to be great.
Champion Karrion Kross. That's going to be excellent. Adam Cole versus the Velveteen Dream.
Dude, this card is so
amazing.
Stacked. Yeah.
Like we said before, Damian Priest versus Finn Balor. And of course, the big draw of the episode that we watched was...
Oh my god, yeah. NXT Pancrase. Can't wait.
It was the fight pit between Matt Riddle and Timothy Thatcher. So the story going to this is that Thatcher had replaced Dunn. Of course, the Broserweights, the team of Matt Riddle and Pete Dunne, are the current NXT Tag Team Champions. Dunn is stuck in the UK, so Timothy Thatcher had replaced him, teaming with Riddle, but that team imploded on the last match. They dropped their titles to Imperium, and now Thatcher and Riddle will collide. John, what did you think of this match?
I absolutely love that they have something called the NXT Fight Pit now. And yeah, just loved the match. It was really cool.
Can you describe the ring?
See like a ring, like kind of almost like underground with a cage around it, and then like a platform above the ring.
It's like the ring was raised,
like maybe
right?
like 7 feet. Yeah. And like the platform's maybe 7 feet high, and they fought up to the platform.
They started up at the top,
and they started at the platform, right, and then went down to the ring. Like that was such a cool way to work that fight, like because it was supposed to be like a worked MMA shoot fight, basically, which made me go back and watch more Pancrase matches, which I've mentioned to you a few times. Pancrase is Minoru Suzuki's wrestling promotion from the 1990s. It's still like going now, but he formed it as a way to bring together MMA fighters, boxers, and pro wrestlers in matches that were worked shoots. So some of them, so it's very disputed. Like if you do research and read about all of these different matches and like watch matches on YouTube, some people like say that none of them were predetermined and all of them were shoot fights. And then
really?
Other people, and the actual promotion itself says that a lot of the most of the matches were shoots, but some of them were predetermined.
Interesting.
And yeah, it was cool. Like the Thatcher Riddle match made me want to go back and watch a lot of them. If you want a match recommendation from that era, Eyes of Beast 4, Ken Shamrock versus Minoru Suzuki is like so fucking good, dude. You should watch.
Can you vamp for about 30 minutes as I watch this match?
The match is only 3 minutes and 30 seconds because are like they're like MMA shoots. So it's like
holy fuck.
it's so cinematic too. Like there's this, like in that match specifically, there's this incredible shot where they have a camera above the ring, down, like looking down on Suzuki and Shamrock in a grapple. So like they're framed in the center of the frame, and Suzuki is wrenching Shamrock's leg, and it's such a cool shot, and then just such a cool moment in professional wrestling history. All of that. If anyone listening wants to look up more about Pancrase, just look up the Eyes of Beast tournaments on YouTube. There's quite a few of them posted, but that match specifically is an important one. And this NXT Fight Pit match totally reminded me of that. And I've been hoping that would kind of seep its way into Western wrestling. I'm not even that big of an MMA guy, but like just that sort of clash of aesthetics and like mindsets, where it's like this MMA fight that's happening within a professional wrestling organization is such a cool thing. And
totally,
you know what, I don't know, yeah, this match itself too, like to have two dudes who are legit MMA people, but then they also can moonsault off the top of a cage is like, yeah, so sick. What did you think of the match?
I loved it. So basically what we're trying to say is these two dudes beat the shit out of each other for about 10 minutes. They're the big moment for me, I think for most people. Looks like Thatcher has the upper hand. And then suddenly Riddle jumps onto the side of the cage and off of it, like he's like Vega from Street Fighter or something.
Oh
and
my god,
like,
dude, great comparison. It was like watching a Vega Street Fighter fight.
And just kicks him in the face. And it looks so brutal. They showed the replay a couple times. It looks like he really like knocks him out, to the point where I wasn't 100% sure that the next moment where Thatcher spits out his own teeth into his hand, I wasn't 100% sure if that was just a joke, because we've seen Cesaro, get his teeth like knocked into his face.
But that was real.
That was real. But I didn't know if this wasn't, like, it seemed pretty obvious that it was probably chiclets or something. But when you rewatch that kick, you're like, that could have been real.
It looks, yeah, it connects. I don't know. Yeah. I didn't really, like, at the time of watching that, didn't question that moment. I was like, oh, that probably happened. But yeah, maybe, I mean, that's, I think what is good about these sorts of new matches is like, you can kind of get lost in them, and it doesn't really matter if that was real or if that was a worked sort of planned spot.
Yeah. It's kind of like the Moxley Kenny Omega match that you referenced, the non-sanctioned lights out match. We knew that the barbed wire was gimmicked, but it was still barbed wire, and we could still go along with it. And it was still a great image. And that was a great image of Thatcher spitting out his teeth and the ref being like, "Can you continue?" He's like, "Yeah, of course." Like,
dude, also not, we kind of buried the lead here. Kurt Angle as ref was great too. Just
that certainly is the lead.
Yeah.
Kurt Angle just living his best life. He's part of the Shield. He's a referee.
I love I love adult, like, dad post-career sort of Kurt Angle. Like, I genuinely am kind of nostalgic for when he was general manager and would come out and like kind of say lines called WWE. Like,
well, this is why I love AEW, is because they've created almost like this like retirement plan for wrestlers. You can't wrestle anymore. Come over here, be a sweet manager. So Jake,
they almost have like a whole roster of people that are like that.
They're building
their
that.
valets and
totally. Yeah. And so I think that Kurt Angle, just having him as like an authority figure, as a general manager, is kind of a waste. He should be finding the next Kurt Angle. He should take on Chad Gable as his protege and give him that rub and push the comparisons even further, and, you know, help get someone like Gable into the main event.
Well, but even his use here I thought was good. I feel like too often the ref is a part of the guest ref is a part of the decision of the match, which is what I thought might happen. Like with the way there was like a promo where he was like shaking Matt Riddle's hand and kind of talking to him, at least in my version of NXT. And it made me think for a moment, like, oh, is he going to be involved in the decision of the match? And I like that he was just there to add posterity to the whole aesthetic. It's like it's
Yeah.
in the NXT Fight Pit. There's a cage. Kurt Angle's the ref.
No, he was very
It's
well
great.
used here.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. Thatcher went over. This is Riddle's farewell NXT match. He will be called
What a
up
match.
to SmackDown perhaps as soon as this upcoming week.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what a way to go out. I gave it an A. John gave it an A+.
Yeah.
Check it out.
It was great. Loved it.
So that was NXT. Should we talk about AEW Dynamite? I just want to say it, just to say it out loud. It blows my mind that we are living in a time where that NXT episode that we just talked about and this Dynamite episode happened at the exact same time on a Wednesday night in 2020. Wrestling is probably as good as it's ever been.
Yeah, it's to me this is the next peak period. Like it's been 20 years since that existed, and we're existing in such a great time for it. And that's not even considering everything else that's going on too. Like the fact that there's 2 weekly shows that are that bring such high quality content on a regular basis is insane. Like
and we're not talking about Raw and SmackDown.
No. But even then not even considering those, like it's like, you have NXT and Dynamite ripping it up every week. New Japan, which is like, on hiatus right now, but when they come back, it's like everyone on New Japan. It's like insane the level of talent that exists across the world right now in wrestling.
And we're not talking about even NWA Power or Impact.
True, and then GCW, all of the other indies in the States, like
NXT UK, which has some incredible talent. So AEW started this week with the Inner Circle backstage, strangely sympathetic, lamenting their loss at Double or Nothing in the Stadium Stampede match. Turns out they mass ordered T-shirts with their image.
This so much,
man. When Jericho pulls up the T-shirt of like them all illustrated, I think the fact that they're drawn is funnier, and it just says Stadium Stampede Champions. I don't laugh out loud a lot during wrestling shows, but that got
a lot of the stuff Inner Circle's been doing has been actually like making
we've
me
talked
laugh
about that a lot, but Jericho is so funny.
He's hilarious, dude. And that shirt specifically, like I feel like they nailed like the parking lot World Series aesthetic. Like I don't know, like I'm trying to think if this maybe is something that would be on your radar in Canada, but maybe not. Like every time a sports team is in the World Series, is in like a championship in any city, in any suburb, city, anywhere there's people in this country, there are dudes set up with T-shirts in a parking lot for you to buy. I know
exactly what you're talking about.
And that shirt, they nailed that aesthetic, and it's the first Inner Circle shirt for me personally that I actually want to buy. Like that, I know.
I think that is amazing that it's kind of like a little bit of the bubbly with Jericho. They're making money selling champagne that nobody cares what it tastes like. Everyone just wants the Jericho bubbly. He's probably gonna make a best-selling T-shirt with this ironic. It's Stadium Stampede Champions.
Yeah, and they have a whole truckload of them.
I laughed out loud just at it was obvious the truck was going to pay off with the door opening, but just seeing that T-shirt, that was enough for me. The opening match was Young Bucks and Matt Hardy versus Private Party and Joey Janela. Some great back and forth, really fast-paced opener. They're brawling outside the ring. Nick Jackson accidentally hits the Butcher, who's ringside with the Butcher and the Blade, with a super kick. Then the Butcher and the Blade start brawling with the Young Bucks.
Don't want to get too ahead though. I can't believe we seen Matt Hardy versus Joey Janela, and it was not a GCW Presents event. It's totally surreal just seeing. Like I feel like that matchup is a matchup Joey Janela would have booked for like Joey Janela's Spring Break or any of the other events he does with GCW, except we're watching it on like TV, national TV on AEW Dynamite. And just there's a moment like right towards the beginning of that match, I think, where Janela does a Death Valley driver to the outside, and then he looks into the camera and yells, "He's gonna puke!" He's gonna puke, and then like runs back into the ring and starts brawling again. Like I love Joey Janela so much, and just those moments like that where it's just like off, like so clearly he just is like doing his thing, and just decided to say that at that moment with that energy. And the fact that he's able to do that is so cool. Like, he gets to bring that, the energy that he harnessed and all of the like tireless work that he put into like his matches on the indies, he is now getting to bring to like a national TV audience. And it makes me so happy and so excited to see what else he does this year. I like that Janela is getting more featured, at the top of the show with a match with the Young Bucks and Matt Hardy, and that's kind of bearing the lead too. Seeing Matt Hardy and the Young Bucks as a team too.
I was just about to say, like, I know we were a little bit skeptical when Matt Hardy was just cutting promos. Now he's doing amazing things in the ring.
Love it.
I love his new sort of his new reinvention, which is basically the idea that he can switch freely between any of the different versions of Matt Hardy that used to exist. So he's like, do you want like, the Hardy Boys Matt Hardy? He comes out with the tight t-shirt and he's got the gloves on and stuff.
The top,
And then they're like, no, let's go a little bit earlier. So he's like, oh, you wanted to be a spot monkey, Matt Hardy? And he comes out. I'm not actually familiar with like Hardy Boys Matt Hardy, but
yeah, I'm not.
I love seeing his outfit, and yeah, seeing him in the ring with the Young Bucks. And JR pointed out on commentary that the Young Bucks obviously would have idolized the Hardy Boys. And obviously that's true, but I never put it together. And so, yeah, seeing them together, and Matt Hardy is like the elder statesman tag team wrestler who can still go like in his own way. He's like very much in a Jericho position. He should be in the decline because he's, pushing 50, but he's, at a creative peak right now.
Yeah, totally. And just even like the long-term storytelling that's happening there too, where it's like just before the Hardys went back to WWE, back when they had the surprise at WrestleMania, they were feuding with the Bucks, and to have that come full circle now, to see Hardy teaming with them.
That's right. Yeah, they fought the Bucks in not a ladder match, but in a match the night before.
It was a cage match, maybe.
Yeah, the night before they debuted and surprise entered the ladder match, and that was like a huge pop for me. I don't know about you.
Totally,
seeing the Hardy Boys back on WWE TV.
Well, and that was the first WrestleMania that I watched in like modern WrestleMania times. And I didn't know that was going to happen, and as Attitude Era fan was blown away that they were the surprise.
But it was weird because he had been broken Matt Hardy, in TNA, and that was, arguably he was the biggest wrestler in the world for a short period of time. So to see him come back as like the Hardy Boys, it was like, okay, so they're not going to do this because WWE didn't invent it. And then slowly he became Woken Matt Hardy because they can own that IP. They can own Broken. They team him with Bray Wyatt as the Deleters of Worlds. They became tag team champions for like 3 weeks, and then they just buried them into oblivion. So great use of Matt Hardy there. I definitely think he is flourishing in AEW.
Yeah. It was a great way to start the show. It was so fast paced, such a good.
It was a great moment where he piles Private Party and Joey Janela. Like, what does JR say? Like Court would, and then does a moonsault onto them. Soon after, an injury from a double stereo dive from Private Party over the top rope put Marc Quinn out of the match and put a time limit on the proceedings. And Young Bucks managed to isolate Isaiah Cassidy and hit the more bang for your buck for the 3 count. We both gave it a B, but this is again burying the lead because the big moment was what happened afterwards. Butcher and Blade came to the ring, started to fight the Young Bucks. A truck pulls up. Who is it? Is it Cody again, ready to drive 3 feet into a barricade and softly touch it? No, it is not. It is the debut of Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler, FTR. They come to the ring after teasing a match with the Young Bucks for perhaps the past 3 years.
Yeah. One of the very first ongoing bits in being the elite, as far as my mind can remember. Fuck the Revival.
Being the elite. BTE.
FTRR, do you get it?
FTR, Fuck the Revival. They've actually adopted that name as their official tag team name. Probably also because the Revolt is already a tag team and they couldn't use that. But I love it because I think FTR, the idea that they can mold that to whatever it needs to mean. At the next Revolution pay-per-view, they can say, for the Revolution. or fear of
I
the
actually
revolution.
hadn't even considered the fact that because they're named FTR, the crowd's definitely going to chant "fuck the revival," both in a negative and both in a like "you're heels and we hate you" and like "you suck, Kurt Angle. Yeah, we love you, and we're so happy to have you here." That's going to be incredible.
Can we talk about that for just a second? I forgot. Kurt Angle comes. Kurt Angle.
Dude, yeah, when Angle comes out,
Kurt Angle comes to the ring before the fight pit, and it's just the very small WWE universe of the NXT wrestlers, and they're all chanting "You suck."
It's but it's so far away, like "You suck."
Yeah, you suck. And Kurt Angle is just doing what he always does, which is just putting his fingers up in the air to enjoy it, and he just looked so genuinely happy. Like he looked like he was right where he wanted to be. And like, I love that "You suck" has, like you said, it's the good kind of heat. It's the "we love to hate you" heat.
We're so happy you're here.
Yeah.
This is referencing something where we were kind of like making fun of you, but you're beloved, and this is why we're yelling this. And that totally is what's going to happen with "Fuck the Revival."
Yeah, absolutely.
That's going to be crazy to scream with everybody at a show. I can't wait for that.
So they make their way to the ring. We think they're going to team up with Butcher and the Blade to just absolutely eviscerate the Young Bucks, their longtime enemies. But instead, they take out the Butcher and the Blade.
Dude, the Butcher and the Blade are looking cool these days. They're
and they're
like
all
Grooves
white
from A Clockwork Orange.
Yes, I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah, like I love that they're channeling that Clockwork Orange aesthetic, and with Butcher being like in a punk band, it's definitely not like unintentional.
I agree, and I gotta say, like, I'm like half sold on the Butcher and the Blade in their like old timey mustache kind of outfits and stuff,
steampunk aesthetic. Yeah,
I'm half sold and half not. So I did really enjoy this, like you said, the Droog look. So FTR beats up the Butcher and the Blade, and then just kind of stares at the Young Bucks, and we're like, are they going to attack them? But no, they walk away. So this long simmering feud has been put into a high boil, and will it pay off this week on Dynamite? Maybe, I don't know. But this is going to be their next. This is the Young Bucks' next big match. It'll probably be on the next big pay-per-view.
Probably All Out, I would think, is where that match is going to take place.
I sure hope so. Next after that, we had a Brian Cage squash match versus Lee Johnson. Like all of the squash matches that have been happening, whenever they introduce Archer or Brody Lee, pretty much just throws around this jobber like a rag doll. But his massive frame is matched by his speed and agility. To end the match, he hits Lee Johnson with a huge power bomb, picks him back up into a buckle bomb, and then finishes him off with his sick named Drill Claw finisher, which is just a huge sitting pile driver. And then Taz comes on the mic, hits a intense promo on Mox, where he says, "Big Boy is gonna put his hand in your chest and tear your heart out." Which is,
oh my god, yeah, that's
sick.
Such a good promo. Such a cool pairing.
Love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. After that, there's a Britt Baker promo. She has emerged, as the best character in the women's division. Wasn't sure about her at first, especially as a babyface. As a heel, she is slowly turning herself into a superstar.
Yeah, her oh my god, her cutting that promo in a wheelchair also, just like
changing role model into role model in the back. That was good.
Yeah, it's cool. I feel like everyone at the start of AEW was very critical of the women's division, and I was, I guess, in my mind at least, and to you to a point, but also at the same time, it's like, well, it's probably gonna get good, and they have like the foundation there. They just need a few more people. Like Penelope Ford is great, and the Joshi wrestlers are great. Like, like Shida, Riho, but like, yeah, over the last year, I've found it very satisfying to watch it go from that sort of feeling of like a developmental sort of league to now, like, there's some like talent here. Like Shida being champion's great, and
totally.
Having Baker eventually chase her for the title, having Penelope Ford feud with Shida, bringing in a lot of different people on that roster. Big Swole, like thinking of the different like matches Shida can have now, seems like it's going to shape up for the rest of 2020.
I think there was some backstage headbutting that was happening a little bit at the beginning. Because one thing that we saw canceled completely on AEW was, I think everyone can agree, sort of the worst gimmick that they've made so far, which was the Nightmare Collective.
With Japanese deathmatch legend Dr. Luther.
And Awesome Kong. And
how could it go wrong? Can't miss.
Brandy Rhodes was collecting just like pieces
hair.
Of hair.
Oh, yeah.
That got shut down very quickly. And I remember hearing stuff that there was some squabbling between the executive directors. I don't know if Cody was supporting Brandy in this or not, but I know for a fact that Kenny was, you know, sort of the maestro of the women's division at the very beginning. So I think he was very much interested in just kind of focusing on the Joshi wrestlers. And I wonder if there has been some maybe Tony Khan takeover of that a little bit to try to expand the women's division to appeal to people who maybe are not familiar with Stardom and things like that. So yeah.
That brings us to the next match. Solid TV match, Shida versus Christy James.
Totally.
I really enjoyed that match.
Dude, during the match, the crowd at ringside is loud enough that you actually forget it's an empty arena match.
That's true. Did you notice? Thomas pointed this out. That in the background, there was a lot of people there.
Like a ringside or?
Not ringside, but at a distance. It looked like there was like a wall of people in the background.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I did see that sometimes, but I don't know exactly what they're doing.
I haven't seen this pointed out really. Online, but it's like Thomas was like, "Whoa, look at the crowd," and then when I looked up, it looked like there was a full. Like it obviously wasn't full, but it looked like one of the upper sections kind of was like filled with people.
Well, realistically, that's probably how they're going to start doing wrestling again, which is like very limited capacity crowds at these controlled arenas.
Yeah, did you see how some movie theaters are like removing seats to distance people?
I miss the movies so much.
Me too. I love going to the movies. The last movie that I seen was Parasite.
Oh, nice.
It was great. I had a big gigantic bucket of popcorn and a cherry Coke, and I miss going to the theater. I miss going to live wrestling.
I saw The Invisible Man with Elizabeth Moss.
Ooh, good one.
And that ruled. That ruled. This has been another episode of We Love Film.
Yeah.
I love how like you can sort of hear Tony Schiavone playing a little bit of Damage Control on JR every time JR mentions the appearance of the female wrestlers. Have you noticed this?
I don't know.
JR has become a little bit of like the Jerry the King Lawler of AEW. Like he's unable to get through a women's match without calling
to their attention to their appearance. I guess I kind of know that. Yeah.
So even in the match before in the next match with Jimmy Havoc and Kip Sabian, when Penelope Ford comes out, Tony makes just a call, just talking about something, and then JR just goes, "Sorry, what were you talking about?" And it was because she was on screen and stuff. So I was, I'm a little reticent about it. There's moments where I think it kind of works, like in that moment, because, obviously Penelope Ford is this very glamorous, person, and her and
superstar.
Kip are both like super bad, super hot. That's sort of their gimmick. But in the middle of this match with Shida and Christy James, JR is like, "Oh, she's a handsome young woman," and you can hear Tony go, "Oh well, yeah, she's very beautiful." But he like really like he wants to change topics and stuff.
Yeah, like move, like he'll like roll over and move on a little bit.
Yeah. Well, she's very beautiful. Okay, well, nice headlock from Shida. John gave this Shida versus Christy James match a B. I gave it a B-. Solid TV match. Really like Christy James. She did some cool moves off the ropes.
Yeah, I would like to see her back. That was probably just like a random, I guess they've been doing that with a lot of people, just like kind of like Jeff Cobb. This was like a one-off thing, or
could be. But it wasn't a squash match, so she's not a jobber. So hopefully we'll see her back.
I hope we see her back. They mentioned, I think, is she the one that they mentioned that she was trained by? I forget who they mentioned she was trained by. Maybe she was one of QT's students. I don't remember.
Could be.
But yeah, she's great.
Could be. Next up was a Cody Rhodes promo where he very compellingly paints himself as the underdog, despite having founded the company and having been very solidly booked and being the first winner of the TV champion or the TNT championship. Every Cody promo, you're like, okay, Cody, where's this going? And then he just takes his time and then just kicks it into the next gear. And then suddenly you're just hooked and you're like hanging on his every single word. He did it again. He's the best. He's the best promo in AEW.
I was the fourth called, but the first champion of America's Greatest Network.
Yeah.
Such a good line.
He's awesome. He doesn't even say fourth at first. He's like, I wasn't the first call. Wasn't the second call. Wasn't even the third call. And then he just puts up 4 fingers.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's awesome. He did it again.
Well, he's going on to face, I guess that's jumping ahead.
You're jumping ahead. Next up was SCU versus Jimmy Havoc and Kip Sabian.
Oh, which we kind of started talking about. Yeah, this was a great tag match. I love is it the super bad squad or super bad death squad? I can't remember what they've been calling themselves. I don't know if they've said this on AEW TV, but on Instagram, I think they've been posting that hashtag and like saying that. But super bad death squad is a cool.
That's a sick name. I hadn't heard what their name was. Jimmy Havoc's entrance gear has got to be like one of the best ones.
Dude, it's like movie quality. Like, it's clear. Like, I feel like with some professional wrestlers' gear, you could tell like, oh, that a professional like seamstress did not make that. That's like you bought like a leather jacket at H&M and then put paint on the back of it, added some studs. With Jimmy Havoc looks like a villain from like that like mask that he has. Like,
it's higher quality than both of the Mortal Kombat movies. Like he looks like
that's what he looks like. Yeah,
like a sick Sub-Zero or something with like, and the long leather coat. Like, oh
wow,
sick.
Yeah, you just made me even more of a fan of Jimmy Havoc. I feel like you could say his name would sound really good in the Mortal Kombat voice. Also,
oh, absolutely. Jimmy Havoc wins.
Yeah, you need to add some reverb on that.
I will. I'm gonna go and just mess this audio the fuck up. Yeah, I dig them as a team. They're good heel partners. Kip's the pretty boy. Jimmy's like the crazy one. They're mean, they're hard hitting, but SU have the experience and they're carrying some of this match. There's an amazing hot tag by Kaz who flips over Jimmy's back over the ropes. At the end, Penelope crosses a distraction. Jimmy puts up Jimmy puts up Scorpio for the Michinoku driver, and then Kip does a running drop kick to basically activate the move. Such a sick finisher.
Yeah, the tag team chemistry between Kaz and Scorpio, so sick. Like,
I think with Christopher Daniels out of there, to me, they're just a sick, like I said before, a revival-esque tag team. Just
yeah,
like
I could see
hard
that,
hitting,
totally.
like just great moves. This is what I mean about giving people the win. I feel like Kip and Havoc have lost a lot of matches, and SCU will not hurt from losing. It was a great match. They're already the first ever AEW tag champs. I give this match a B. John gave it a B as well. I would love to watch more Kaz matches from TNA. I know he must have had some bangers. Was he ever one of the masked guys in TNA? Like Suicide or something?
I'm not sure. I did not watch a lot of TNA.
I seem to remember that. I'm gonna look that up.
The only TNA that I ever saw was when I seen it live in Universal Studios in Florida. Outside of that, I think I've seen like clips and then what we've watched together, like as like historical. These matches are important.
Just tell us a bit about that. Seeing TNA at Universal Studios, you can't drop that and just move on.
Well, it was a complete accident that happened. Like, me and my family were in Florida. We were there on vacation in maybe 2012. It was either 2011 or 2012, maybe 2013. It was between 2011 and 2013.
It was either 11 or 12, but maybe 13.
We go to Disney World a lot as a family, so
it's adorable.
The times sort of blurred together a little bit, but during this specific time, we went to Universal Studios and we were looking through the map to decide what we were going to do that day. And it seemed in the bottom right corner of the map was a image of Hulk Hogan flexing, Sting standing there, and maybe the Dudley Boys also. And I was like, what is this? Why are they on this map, branded map for Universal Studios? Maybe this is just some like promotional event around.
Sure.
I actually didn't even realize. I was so far out of wrestling at that moment that I didn't realize wrestling was being taped live within Universal Studios during this time. So we flipped it over, and there was a list of maybe 20, 25 dates that they were filming TNA live from the Impact Zone in Universal Studios, and we were there on a day where they were filming live. And so like then we were there early. It was like 9 a.m. They were filming late, like 7 p.m. So we knew the end of our day was going to end with professional wrestling. And me, my mom, and my little brother were so psyched because we went to wrestling so much as kids, and all of us were like, wow, this is such a cool thing that we got to do. And you were able to be a part of the live audience with your admission to Universal Studios. So it was like, go ride the Spider-Man ride, have some green eggs and ham in Dr. Seuss land, then go watch TNA wrestling at night.
Wow, that's a complete day.
Yeah, real perfect day of American culture.
Do you remember what the main event was?
I do not. The only thing I remember, I just remember being so excited to see people we recognized at the time, because at that time it was like, well, I hope we get to see some of these people that are pictured on the card. Hulk Hogan, I remember, appeared via a promo. This was during the time of Aces and Eights, and I honestly don't know enough about TNA to really go much further than what I seen like at the live event.
No worries.
But yeah, it was during the time of Aces and Eights. I know Devon Dudley was a big part of that and cut a promo. I believe Sting made an appearance at one point. Someone, I think Bully Ray, Bubba Ray, was getting married to Hogan's daughter. And then
Brooke.
Brooke Hogan. And that segment, it was like it felt like 45 minutes. It felt like half of the time we were there, we watched a segment where people kept coming out in Aces and Eights. Like, first one person came out, then the whole gang came out, then 2 more people came out. It felt like a 45-minute promo with like 3 matches at the end.
Interesting.
Do not remember the matches. I know Sting made an appearance and we were blown away. And I also, it was such a cool aspect of being able to go to Universal Studios. And I just general, like the aesthetics of like a theme park hosting professional wrestling is such a cool moment.
Totally.
This is a tangential fact to this, but one thing that's always blown my mind, and I would love for someone to message me to talk to me more about this. But
I'd love someone just to message me and just talk to me.
Well, like I've not really seen much discussion on this subject, but like there was death matches in the Impact Zone inside Universal Studios. So like there was and I've seen photos people have posted where it says like parental advisory, gratuitous violence is going to happen within this match.
Right.
So there's barbed wire death matches in the Impact Zone at Universal Studios where you and your family could go have green eggs and ham and then watch a death match afterwards.
I just love that combination. Just is fantastic.
Just like that combination is really interesting to me, and I don't know. Yeah, it would be cool to know more information about that, because out of all of the stuff I've looked up, yeah, it's not something that I've come much across. But yeah, it's just like it's great. I don't know.
So just on the sort of surprise wrestling when you're like a little bit younger, I was just thinking about how when my brother went to university in Toronto, I was about 10 years old, and we drove up to drive him there. And after we dropped him off, it's the only time I can ever remember my parents like surprising me with something big. Like my mother every now and then will surprise me with like a gift or something, like, oh, I did get you the 64, the Nintendo 64, something like that, but not a lot of like surprise events or anything. But we were in Toronto just driving around after dropping my brother off, and my mother's like, so we're going to go see SmackDown now.
Oh, hell yeah.
And there was SmackDown at the Air Canada Center. And I remember...
What year was this?
So, I actually just looked this up. I was doing some quick math in my head. So I'm 6 years younger than my brother. And I went to university in 2007. So it would have to be 2001. And it would have to be September 2001. And I looked it up, and it was actually September 4th, 2001, 1 week before September 11th.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And so I just looked up this card. Tag team match. The Hardy Boys with Lita defeat Just Incredible and Raven.
Oh my God. That's so sick.
Yeah. 4 minutes. Singles match. Test defeated Billy Gunn.
Oh, Mr. Ass.
Yeah, man. WWF European title match. The Big Show defeated the Hurricane by disqualification in 1 minute.
Classic. That's such a classic 2001 match. Hurricane versus Big Show. Wow.
8-man tag team match. Booker T, Rhino, and the Dudley Boys with Shane McMahon defeated Chris Jericho and the APA and The Rock.
That is a crazy 8-man.
That is a crazy.
Wait, Shane McMahon, the Dudley Boys?
No, Shane is just like their manager. It's Booker T, Rhino, and the Dudley Boys versus Chris Jericho, Bradshaw, Farouk, and The Rock.
That's crazy.
What kind of a team is that? And you're not even going to believe this. Non-title match. Rob Van Dam defeated Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Oh my God, dude, that's a crazy main event.
I know, and I think maybe
we got to go back and watch. We should at least watch that.
I don't know if you've
gone back and watch it, but
I
we
have
should definitely
not.
add Rob Van Dam to Stone Cold versus on the Rob Van Dam super card we're building.
Totally. I only just thought like I could probably look that up and figure out what it was with some quick math. Stone Cold was the WWF champion and Rob Van Dam was the hardcore champion at the time.
Sick. That is such a sick time to go. Like that.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, just after sort of the peak Attitude Era, in between sort of like kind of Ruthless Aggression, basically. Like,
it was like right in the Invasion, I think.
Yeah,
because
totally
there was that ECW and everything.
Yeah, you have Rob Van Dam and Just Incredible on the show.
Totally,
dude. Man, so you would have been, how old would you have been? Like,
either 9 or 10 years old. I think 9 years old.
Oh my God, your mind was probably blown.
Oh, absolutely. Just like being there where you're in the nosebleeds and it didn't matter. Just seeing the Titantron, seeing people walk out, like, yeah.
Yeah, just being in a wrestling crowd at 10 years old is such a great experience.
Man, it was wild.
It's so cool that you got to see Stone Cold, at such a good time.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I was hoping Stone Cold and The Rock were both in the card, and they were. That's awesome. Which, speaking of Billy Gunn, who fought on that card, that brings us to the final match of AEW, which is the TNT Battle Royal to determine the next contender, or the first contender, I should say, to Cody Rhodes' TNT Championship. We saw our favorite ringside duo, the Gunn Club, Billy Gunn and his son, whose name I refuse to learn because I will just continue to call him Bart, which is absolutely not his name.
It makes me laugh every time you text me and call him Bart.
Because I just imagine him being like, Bart, like something like that. But William Gunn realizes that he's in the Battle Royal. His son is like, Dad, you're in it. He gets in the ring.
Dude, yeah, I seen him. He was walking around WrestleCon 2019. And that was when I realized how tall he was, because he's way taller than me.
I don't know how we didn't notice this in the Attitude Era, but when he gets in the ring and he's like next to Luchasaurus and Wardlow, and they're all like the same height, it's so weird.
I think it's like his, like, he's agile and fast, and the way he works is very smooth. And I think especially during the Attitude Era, when you had a lot of like hardcore brawling and sort of like not a lot of technicians, like he's someone, him and like Goldust both, I feel like, have sort of this like, I don't know, smoothness to the way that they throw punches and the way that they do moves.
Agreed.
Where I think during that time it made him seem smaller than he actually was. And a lot of people on that roster were big, but Billy
I think
Gunn
that's
to me
it too.
still seemed smaller. Like I imagine him to be X-Pac size.
Totally. But he's basically like 2 X-Pacs. He's like Tupac.
But yeah, anyways, yeah, the Battle Royal was great. I love that they're doing stuff like this on Dynamite TV. Like, I just see a Battle Royal randomly, like it's not a pay-per-view, it's just
totally
to help the match feel important.
We didn't mention, but SCU versus Jimmy Havoc and Kip Sabian was a #1 contendership match for the AEW Tag Team Championship. So they're going to go on, Jimmy and Kip, to face Kenny Omega and Hangman Page.
Dude, that match was going to rip.
So that's going to rip. And
2 days from now. I would also like to say, I made a note. I love I love that they mentioned this on commentary during that SCU Jimmy Havoc Kip match. That was the first time that SCU tagged since they lost the belts. So great story, great reason for them to lose because they haven't been tagging together. And they're kind
got
of
some
like
ring rust,
thrown off by this new crazy team with the valet and, a great reason for SCU to lose that kind of adds to their story that I really liked. It was a throwaway line that wasn't really, no one, I think Excalibur just mentions it at one point, and then they kind of move on and no one says anything. But
true.
Yeah,
we should also mention that Penelope did cause a distraction that led to
that was the
led to the win. But anyway, the TNT Battle Royal, a lot of great competitors. I did not write them down. I know that our favorite Japanese deathmatch legend, Dr. Luther,
came to tear the house down. He's sticking his tongue out and fucking people up, dude.
And then he got thrown out pretty soon after that. I love
It's got to a point now where that originally I was annoyed because I did not like the Nightmare Collective, like at most of everyone that watches wrestling. But now because he's become like almost like an inside joke between you and I, where we send each other gifs and pictures of him. It's funny to me when he is in these scenarios. Like I like that he's in these scenarios now.
Yeah,
like
totally.
Like it's got to a point where it's like, oh, this is funny that he's here and now he's thrown out, and we're focusing on the people in the match.
And I was saying, and I was only half kidding, they should just like recruit him to the Dark Order.
Yeah, like he'd be a great ancillary character of the Dark Order. He tags with Brody sometimes. Like that's a great would be a perfect move. Slot him right in there.
Totally. There was some great Hoss-off energy between Beef Lords, Wardlow, and Luchasaurus.
Dude, that should be a tag name right there.
Beef
Lords? My God, Beef Lords.
They both move so fast and they hit so crisp. It's fantastic. It looked like it might come down to Wardlow versus MJF. But
that pre-match promo, I like MJF MJF calls Wardlow War Dog. There seemed to be a little bit of tension there in that pre-match promo.
He hits Wardlow and he basically implies that he's not going to win the match. It's going to be MJF, and then Wardlow looks pissed, and MJF's like, "Oh, I'm just kidding, buddy." So they're building to that eventual break, and that's going to be a great match. MJF versus Wardlow. Wardlow has just been a heavy for the most part, but he can go. We saw him with Cody in the cage. He can go.
Dude, Wardlow, I never heard of him.
Me
from my hometown of Cleveland, Ohio.
Is he really?
Yeah, I always noticed that when there's like Alexa Bliss is from Columbus, Ohio. He's from Cleveland, Ohio. It's not I feel like you don't often hear that announced in wrestling.
Sure.
That they're hailing from those places. But yeah, Wardlow, he ripped it up in that cage match with Cody. He's been a cool heavy for MJF. Like just seeing him really break out on the roster too. Like in a way, it's great. Like they're bringing in all these people that even like someone like you or I who like is really invested in wrestling might not have come across, and they're now a fan of. Like,
absolutely. Jungle Boy and Orange Cassidy teamed up to take out MJF and Wardlow in a moment that must have made Jim Cornette's head absolutely explode. Eventually Jungle Boy wins the match, and great winner. He's the definition of a person who can take a loss to Cody next week and come out looking stronger by just proving that he's on the same level as Cody, who is an absolutely inescapable main event guy. So I think that Jungle Boy, he will take this loss next week in stride. And again, it's going to be so great to see him eventually ascend to the championship in a couple years.
Dude, yeah, I love the build up to Jungle Boy versus Orange Cassidy within that match. That's another one that's like, I don't know, like I just the cross section of wrestlers that they brought into AEW is great. Like you mentioned last week, the Double or Nothing is like a pastiche of all wrestling. It's like something for everybody, and just the rolling through all of these different segments and matches that happened in AEW. It's cool to think of all the different things that go on within this. And yeah, Jungle Boy versus Orange Cassidy. I want to see like an Iron Man match or like a 60-minute like G1 style match between the two of them.
Oh yeah,
like they're both so quick and they each have such a unique moveset that it would be really fun to see. Yeah, like basically a Dynamite's version of like, Ospreay, versus Takahashi.
Well, it'd be cool too because Orange is used to being the underdog, but he would almost be like the big guy in that matchup. So that would be an interesting kind of.
Yeah, that's it. That's funny to point out too.
After that, there was the Stadium Stampede replay, which
I would watch that replay over and over again. Love seeing the highlights from that match.
To see the highlights from that match is, I think, the quickest way to get someone back into wrestling. Just watch a
3-minute
collection of the moves in that match and all the amazing stuff that's happening.
Dude, that King Kong One-Winged Angel, definitely a high point of AEW thus far.
I don't think I'll ever get over it, to be quite frank.
No.
It was followed by the Inner Circle pep rally, which Jericho is so funny. He always finds a way to create these segments that should be too much but are just perfect. In this, everyone got some gifts from Jericho. My favorite one was Sammy Guevara getting a framed photo of Marc Anthony.
And this was a perfect amount of time too, because it was maybe only 10 minutes. And early on in the beginning of Dynamite, there was one time where they did a similar thing. I can't believe I can't remember specifically what it was, but where there was like maybe a half hour of the show was dedicated to something like this,
right?
Like sort of like a promo where it's like, I mean, that maybe would be fine, but it was like, this is great. He gives all these gifts to the Inner Circle. It's very fun, very goofy.
I loved Jake going off like Liam Neeson from Taken in the middle of his poem.
Yeah,
but
totally.
He has a very particular set of skills. I didn't know if Jake was funny, but he, after the like Bubbly Bunch promos they did in quarantine and this, I think he's kind of a secret comedy.
Well, he's a straight man. Yeah. Like he's just like his like kind of like hulking, slow way of speaking. I think like it plays off of Sammy and PMP have this chaotic like Looney Tunes energy. Jake Hager's is very serious, but then also kind of goofy, and Jericho is just he's Jericho. So it's this like, intersection of personalities that's like, when they were first paired together, I was like, well, this is like a cool, like random NWO like faction, but now they're all together and they're such a great unit. Like, I hope Inner Circle stays together for a while.
I remember like the moment where I realized that they all had such great chemistry. It was very early on in Dynamite, and there was a promo that building up to the Jericho Cody match where Jericho and Sammy did a parody of the Cody and Brandy promo that had happened the week before, where Brandy comes over and like kisses Cody on the cheek and stuff like that. And they did that with Sammy Guevara, where Sammy comes over and kisses Jericho on the cheek. And I was like, that was the moment where I was like, oh my God, these guys are amazing. Like they have harnessed something. And it's obviously Jericho is like the ringleader. Like we said, like he's the perfect comedian because he's such a great wrestler. So he's so silly, but like you said, he'll still fuck you up. He still comes out with the Painmaker leather jacket with the spikes on it and stuff.
Looks awesome.
Looks so good. And then he puts the fedora on as like the heat magnet fedora. Fedoras in wrestling are heat magnets.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's like a scarf.
One of Sammy's throwaway lines that made me laugh really hard was when they revealed the cheese plate. Sammy yells, "A cheese platter, baby!" And he's like kind of like holding it and like dancing around a little bit, and it's like not like a good cheese platter.
No, it's all been eaten. And who should emerge from backstage but Mike Tyson,
Iron Mike,
and his band of meth addicts.
Dude, the craziest looking crew ever.
And I think they had like an actor or something up front. The guy I said looked like Vince Russo. He was just like standing in front of a bunch of legit MMA guys with like this weird eye makeup or face paint.
Yeah, there was like he was wearing face paint. At first I wasn't sure when that person came out like what
was going on.
Yeah, like why is that guy got face paint on? But then it's like, oh, this is just Mike Tyson's weird crew that he's rolling with.
So Mike looked weird. That guy looked weird. I think everyone else actually looked really tough, are legit MMA fighters, but all the distraction was taken by Mike and his kind of like weird posture in the ring. Like I was joking that he looked like he was on meth, but like that's what it looked like when he was like flexing in front of Jericho, but then he was also like bending over and just being like, ah, and I was like, he looks crazy. Like he had
that the moment where he's like flexing over Jericho, and then Jericho says, "You look great." Like, yeah,
Tyson,
I see. Like, you look good. Like,
Tyson's
stop
just
doing that?
He's got a crazy energy. He's just like, we just ate a dude's brain like in Temple of Doom, and we are so full of adrenaline.
Oh
crazy.
my god, dude, totally.
I think that segment's gonna bring a lot of people in, but not my favorite. Not my favorite segment.
Yeah, I liked it as a way to end the show. Like I was saying, like they didn't dedicate a half hour to this. It was built up that Tyson's coming throughout the whole episode. Then the last 10 minutes, we get this great pull apart. Locker room is emptied. Jericho is incensed, and I love when he is like upset and angry,
screaming.
Like, yeah, just every scenario that happens. Billy Gunn's son is front and center on the turnbuckle, like framed. It was a great way to end
Bart Gunn. So are we getting Mike Tyson versus Chris Jericho? Is this happening, an actual match?
I mean, earlier I was talking about Pancrase and how they matched up MMA and wrestling. So the original inspiration was a boxer fighting a wrestler. So yeah, bring it on. I say I'm for it.
All right. Well, that has been our coverage of just one night of television. Like, I cannot stress this enough. There is 4 hours of, well, really 3 hours with commercials of incredible wrestling happening every Wednesday night. I watch it on TSN because I'm in Canada.
I'm on Hulu and Sling.
There you go. John last week recommended a classic match.
The J Crown Finals.
Of course.
The Great Sasuke versus Ultimo Dragon.
That's right. Great Sasuke versus Dragon G1 Express. This was the J Crown Jr. Heavyweight 8 Crown Unification Tournament Finals.
Yep. Yeah.
Only a little bit more cumbersome than the interim Cruiserweight Championship tournament. So the crowd is G1 Climax in 1996. The crowd is lit the fuck up. It starts out like a martial arts fight, lots of dancing around, kicking at each other.
Well, just not to cut you off here, but just the whole presentation and introduction of the titles with the procession of the girls coming out and holding the titles up is really great, and just sets like you can feel the energy
totally
right as soon as the YouTube video starts. Like.
Yeah.
Then totally it starts out saying it starts like a martial arts fight is like a great.
Well, because they're dancing around each other, and but then it transitions pretty quickly into some great mat work. Just one move on top of the other, and it's a pretty slow burn. The first 5 minutes are a lot like that, and but then once it picks up. So Sasuke goes for a springboard moonsault, and then Ultimo Dragon hits him with a picture perfect drop kick, and then. Sasuke's outside. Ultimo moonsaults into the crowd. Sasuke
flips into the front row.
Sasuke ends up splayed across the steel barricade. Incredible moment. Back in the ring, Ultimo hits a fantastic brainbuster suplex and then a sitting powerbomb for some close 2 counts. Sasuke basically has to launch himself out of the pin. And then Sasuke puts Ultimo on the top turnbuckle, drop kicks him. He lands on the concrete, misses the mats outside the rings completely. Immediately, Ultimo jumps onto the top ropes, hits another moonsault to the outside. This time, he lands into the crowd, except...
Dude, over the barricade.
Over the barricade. The last time when Sasuke did it, there was an empty seat next to photographers, so it seemed like a gimmicked place to do it. This time, you see this, like, 5-year-old kid screaming in the front row. He almost gets hit. He like screams. It's like honestly terrifying. Thank God I knew it was like nothing happened initially, because it like the kid does not look like oh, this is fun. He's like screams like mommy,
terrified.
Like, holy shit. I don't know how they were like legally allowed to do that. I guess in Japan it's like an honor if your son gets paralyzed in the front row of like a match. So yeah, Ultimo regains control. Hits a beautiful reverse dragon suplex to a pin, nail-biting 2 count. Then he Hurricane Ranas off the top turnbuckle to another 2 count.
Oh my god, yeah, this sequence is crazy.
Ultimo's outside the ring on the concrete. Sasuke hits him with a Senton Tomiko, basically completely lands on his shoulders on the concrete.
Yeah,
again.
on the concrete. The mats that they have on the outside of this ring too
Useless.
are like the mats that we had in gym class as kids.
And
they're like haphazardly placed.
Just 3 feet and that's it. And it's just like the rest of it. So yeah, he's on the ground. Ultimo is like over the barricade, just like laying down. Somehow they just both get up like immediately. Like in WWE, they would like stay there for like 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, that would be like a 20 count, like a 10 count.
Yeah, totally.
20 count, like
nothing. They just get up. Sasuke, amazingly not dead, goes for the moonsault, misses. Ultimo rolls him up, 2 count. Then Sasuke reverses a powerbomb into the pin, 3 count. Just a great 15-minute banger. Good mix of high-flying aerial assaults, mat-based wrestling, and some classic hard-hitting brain busters, power bombs. John gave it an A+. I'm going to give it an A. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, I absolutely love that match. Definitely one of my favorites of all time. Like,
please look it up. Please look it up. You can easily find it on YouTube.
So in a little more, like I was doing more research on the J Crown and how it ended, and found this like chunk of text where it talks about how Ultimo Dragon defended the J Crown in WCW because he was the WCW Cruiserweight Champion and the NWA World Middleweight Champion, and then eventually Liger would go on to defend it as 7 titles instead of 8. Until ultimately the WWF was getting ready to introduce a new light heavyweight title.
Yes, I remember this. Or I remember reading about this, sorry.
And then they demanded that Shinjiro Otani, the current J Crown champion at the time, return the belt to them, sort of breaking apart and sort of dissipating the J Crown. But yeah, just
very
such a classic match. All of the photos of anybody holding the J Crown, I feel like, are my favorite champion photos. Yeah. What's your classic match recommendation for me?
Thank you so much. Yeah. So this is what we're going to try to do. We're going to try to recommend matches to each other back and forth that we are pretty sure the other one hasn't watched. But I also want this to just be a recommendation to everyone listening. Hopefully there's some lapsed wrestling fans out there who can be curious enough to check out one of these matches and maybe be pulled back in. So John, for you, I decided to choose a match that was, I think, right in the smack dab of when we both were not watching wrestling.
Cool, yeah.
Tail end of the Ruthless Aggression era, start of the PG era, I think, like right on the cusp.
I definitely would not have seen this, probably.
So this is from No Mercy 2008, and it is a World Heavyweight Championship ladder match between champion Y2J Chris Jericho and challenger Shawn Michaels.
Wow.
HBK.
I've not seen this.
HBK versus Y2J. So the reason I wanted to show you this is because I don't know if it'll make the Shawn Michaels supercard that we watch, because I don't want everything to be a 30-minute match in that, because those get kind of exhausting. This is a 30-minute match. But I thought you should see it because this is, I think, 5 months before HBK Taker at WrestleMania 25, which is maybe my favorite match of all time. So it's Shawn Michaels in the height of his comeback, and it's a blind spot for me for Chris Jericho. Like, I know Chris Jericho, WCW, I know him coming into the WWE, arrogant heel, kind of having a babyface run there, you know, being the first ever undisputed heavyweight champion, defending against Triple H in an underwhelming match after Hogan and Rock. And that's pretty much all I know of Chris Jericho until late period, him with Kevin Owens, Festival of Friendship, and then obviously right now NJPW Painmaker / first ever AEW champion Chris Jericho. So yeah, this was a Jericho I can't remember seeing a single match. Yeah, it's an excellent match. I watched it last night. I'm not going to talk too much about it
this week. Yeah, so psyched to come back and talk about it next week.
Yeah, man. So next episode we'll be talking about the next episode of NXT as well as AEW on Wednesday. We traditionally do watch AEW live and then stream NXT. For me, that's I kind of have to do that because NXT is not playing in Canada live, but you can watch it on the WWE Network after it has aired. And we will also be talking about NXT in Your House, which is happening this Sunday. I love the idea of them taking the graphics back from these old shows to maybe, again, get some lapsed fans who remember those graphics. I know that you said the poster was kind of a typographical nightmare, but I do like seeing that old In Your House.
It's a great throwback. Yeah. I mean, I like it. It's just also, annoying as someone who lays out type and illustrates things.
I totally get it. It's gonna be a great show. I am honestly like so psyched about how much we have to talk about next episode.
Before we close, I'd like to give a quick shout out to Ukulele Punk Wes Smith on Instagram. Those of you watching the video will see this. Those of you not watching the video can look up his work on Instagram. He's a photographer. Sent me some prints, a very cool one of Darby Allin. Really love it.
You can follow West Smith at Ukulele Punk on Instagram. You can follow us at Torture Wracked on Instagram. You can follow John at John F. Malta on Instagram. And you can follow me, if you want to see what movies I'm watching for some reason, at Waste of Taste on Instagram.
Can't wait to talk to you next week, my friend.
In the books.
Done.